If we as human beings all had something in common and we all wanted one thing in particular, what would that one thing be that all of us want in this life? Happiness, right? And we ask people all the time, how are you doing? And the general answer is I'm doing good. But sometimes if you slow down and ask people a second time, no, really, how are you doing? Right? Some people are still going to be like, I'm doing good. Why are you asking me a second time? But other people are going to say, well, Brandon, I'm actually going through a hard time right now. This happened in my life. I lost this relationship, right? My father left when I was this old, or my wife left, or my husband left, or something, right? We all seek happiness in our life. And I feel that if we ask everyone, what is your definition of happiness? When are you most happy in your life? Then the answer is going to be different, right? But today we're going to specifically talk about how we can make happier simple, more simple to accomplish. And to do that, we're speaking to the author of the new book, Happier Made Simple. The author is Randye Kaye. She's been a friend of mine since 2019, 3 years now. And the premise of this book is when you choose your words, you can change your life. They are shortcuts to more serenity in a complicated world that we live in today. And we're going to be diving into what we call the core phrases that can lead to happiness and the key phrases. And we're going to be diving into specific strategies you can use today in order to spice up your experience of life and be a bit happier and find more happiness. So without further ado, the fee for the show. When you take something away from this conversation, whether it's a new idea, philosophy, or maybe we just made you laugh or smile, then all we ask is you share this show with just one person who can also use it. Share it with one person through word of mouth, social media, whatever it is. We're not going to show you ads. We're not going to show you sponsors because we don't want to interrupt your viewing and listening experience. So just share the show. You're the best part of the team, and I'm grateful to you for that. Without further ado, let's talk to our guest of the hour. Her name is Randye Kaye. And for those who don't know Randye has gone from abandoned wife to powerful single mother, from settling for crumbs when it comes to love to the self-esteem for healthy love relationships, from the heartbreak of mental illness in her son to becoming a mental health advocate, and from partial paralysis to walking again. Randye Kaye's work as actor, broadcaster, speaker, and author, and many other things, is designed to share these lessons of resilience, humor, and the power of words to help other people live happier and generate the energy to reach their goals. Randye, we made it happen. I'm so happy to have you here.
Me too. I'm so glad you're feeling better. And I have to laugh over the introduction. It was like the many beards of Brandon Eastman. Which one do you like best? So funny to watch.
You got to keep people guessing. You never know what to expect when you watch the broadcast. My wife liked the shorter beard though. So that's not the reason for it, but I was like, it's a cleaner look. She's like, you got a nice face. She's like, so you should show people your face. And I was like, well, I appreciate the compliment. Thank you for that.
It's good. It's good if your wife likes your face. That's
that is a plus. Absolutely. Randye, I've known you for several years now. And when I started, we met, by the way, for everyone listening, through the National Speaker Association. And when I started, I didn't know anyone there. I didn't know any other professional speakers. And you were one of the people who've been a part of that chapter for a very long time. Mm-hmm. You talk a lot about the power of connections. And I know you've made a lot of powerful and great connections that have become close friends of yours through the National Speaker Association. Mm-hmm. And I just want to thank you for the guidance that you've given me during that time. You've given me some personalized and honest feedback that have helped me with my own presentations and the way I present myself. So I thank you for that. And I thank you for being here today to share your wisdom with everybody now on the grand stage.
Well, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure to witness your ambition and your perseverance and your willingness to be open and keep getting better, because look at the name of your business. So it's giving it. That's fantastic.
Exactly. Well, I appreciate that. And I want to say to everyone listening, we talk about a lot of books on the show. Happier Made Simple. Randye gave me this book and I read it. And this was one of the books that I read before I went to bed each night. And guys, I can't tell you, I was excited to read this book every single day. I was actually excited. I read one key phrase at a time. And I'm going to explain what the key phrases are. I've got a bookmark here that goes through all of them. But it's just an uplifting book. And you know what I like most about it, Randye? You wrote this book in your own voice. So you wrote it like you speak. And when I say that, I mean, it was uplifting. It was very personal. I got to know a lot about you that I didn't know before. And it was really funny. Like, you're a very funny and humorous person. And there was several times where I swear, I laughed out loud while reading it because, and it made me want to keep reading. So you epitomize, if that's even a word, the essence of adding humor to your everyday interactions in your writing. So everyone listening, you got to check out Happier Made Simple. We're going to talk about it today. But I'm curious, Randye, why this book at this chapter of your life? Why a book on happiness? Why Happier Made Simple? Why now?
I will answer that, but I just want to thank you for that review, so to speak, because what you said, you just enumerated exactly the reasons I wrote the book. If you want a book on being happier or on happiness, there's officially a gazillion of them. Just go to Barnes and Noble or go to Amazon and put in, and it's like, whoa, what do I do now? And research shows that most people read a chapter and a half and put it back on the shelf, or buy it and put it on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what happens to me when I'm looking through a book, looking inside on Amazon or looking in a physical book at a bookstore, is that if I open it up and if the font is too small and it's single spaced and it just looks difficult to read, I'm likely to put it back on the shelf. And what many people told me when we talked about the journey to just live life feeling happier so that you do have the energy to help other people, to reach your goals, to, if you want to walk over the hot coals in a weekend retreat, you need the energy of being happier so you get unstuck. And so people said, well, I bought this book and I read it and I learned stuff, but I don't know what to do. Like, what am I supposed to do differently? Or it was too complicated. I don't want to get a master's in happiness. I just want to live a happier day. And so I thought about some of the things I've been through, and we've all been through stuff. I spent a year in a leg brace, and my husband abandoned the family in an alcoholic stupor, and I raised my kid, blah, 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 because everybody has stuff. But the question that I would always get when I would tell these stories or speak after my first book came out about my son's mental illness and how we are coping as a family, people would come up to me later and go, yay, thank you for sharing your story, but how do you stay so positive? How do you have the energy? And I just, I tell myself stuff. My book is all about self-talk, and it's not a new concept, but it's not so much what happens to you as the way you process it. And part of the way you process it and look ahead is in the words that you use when you talk to yourself. And so each chapter is a different phrase with a different concept that there have been whole books written about, but it starts with a story and the phrase I use to get myself through. And P.S., I make a living also as a radio personality and an actor. So finding the humor in stories made me a better speaker, made me a better radio personality. And I found in my years on morning radio that trauma and tragedy aside, look, those are their own processing things, but most things are funny eventually. And I learned to find the humor quicker. And when you're on a morning radio show every day, you're looking like a comedian does at your life going, well, that's hilarious. And then, so that's one of my chapters, which is different from a lot of books on happiness. And I chose Happier, Not Happiness for a reason. One of my chapters is on humor. And I find that is something that has helped me so much that it seems to be missing from some of the extremely serious happiness clubs that I've been to. I take Kabbalah and other things, and they go, oh, you got to listen to this guru. And I open up the YouTube and they don't crack a smile. And I'm like, are you enjoying your work or what? So anyway, that's why I wrote it, to make it accessible, to be conversational, to just tell my story and what helps me. And hey, try it, see if it works for you. And then at the end, to have I had a mug with this in it.
I love that.
These 7 core concepts and phrases, which spell out breathe, which is really important, so that you can go, oh yeah, you know which phrase I need right now? I need this phrase. We're all connected. That's the phrase I need to tell myself. And Words have power. So when you
Yes.
tell yourself something, or maybe repeat it 3 or 4 times, it does start to sink in. So that's why I wrote it, to kind of uncomplicate ways to be happier without the goal to be happy every second of every day, which is not possible nor desirable. And to, yeah, tell my stories.
So
That's
that's the
it.
difference between happier and happiness. The reason you didn't title it Happiness Made Simple is because it's a facade to believe that you want to be happy every single moment of every day.
Absolutely. You know what? It reminds me, and I think I tell this in the book, but I don't remember. There's a Twilight Zone episode. So many lessons in Twilight Zone. There's a Twilight Zone episode where this man, is not living the best life, and he dies, and he is sent to what he thinks will be the place down under, and everything is going right. Like, he wakes up, and every bet he places, he wins. Every woman he wants to be with, he gets. And at first he is ecstatic, and eventually he's bored. Not that being happy is boring, but it's not what we're here to do. And when he asks his guardian angel to please send him to the other place, he goes, you are in the other place. So Rod Serling, man, he was like so full of great morals. But as I was writing the book, a new catchphrase, and I put it in the final edit, came out with something called toxic positivity.
Mm.
These are the people that are like, joy, joy, joy. You're going to be happy all the time. You're supposed to be happy all the time. Spread sunshine wherever you go. And I don't think that's why we're here. We're not here with a goal to be happy. I believe we're here to meet our challenges and
Mm.
to reach our goals and to work hard and to help each other and to laugh together and to connect with other people and to teach and to learn. And you don't do that without challenges. What I wanted to write about was not getting stuck in anxiety and pessimism, so that you have the tools you need to move forward and do the necessary work to live happier moments, which add up to the energy to do what you want to do.
Yes.
Mm.
And your book really is so different than any other book on happiness. And the
Really?
reason I believe it's different is, I'll give an example. I read a book a long time ago called The Magic of Thinking Big. And this is a book that came out in like the 50s or the 60s. Great
Mhm.
book. There was a chapter I really liked in that book, and it was about how if we took our brain and we called the brain the mental factory, right? And inside the mental factory, we've got Mr. Triumph and we have Mr. Defeat. Those are the two
Okay.
foremen in the factory.
Yeah.
And, Mr. Triumph, he speaks good, right? He uses language such as, I get to do this. I had this challenge, but I got this out of it in a positive way. And then on the other side, there's Mr. Defeat, who talks about the challenges and how it's happening to him and how he has to do all these things. He's got to do this. And he explains the difference in how one person, we each have these two foremen in our brain. But then the chapter ended and I was like, okay, I got a really good picture of this. But your book is about happiness, but it's niche in the idea of you go deep into the self-talk. And I really liked specifically, I bring it up purposefully, but specifically, I really liked the part about switching the language on things from I have to do this, or I've got to do this, or this has to be done, to I get to do this,
Mhm.
right? It paints a very different picture in our mind when we say I get to. Like my father the other day, my grandmother's in a nursing home. She's been there for a long time. And my dad said, yeah, I've got to go see my mom. I've got to go see her, And I said, and again, it's my dad, which is why I said this. I wouldn't be saying this to everybody, but I was
Right.
like,
Normally, these words, you don't give advice to other people, but in
yes.
your family, yeah, you can.
And you make that very clear in the book, which I'll
I
mention too,
do.
which I love. But I looked at my dad and I was like, Dad, how would you feel different if you said you get to go see your mother? And he was like, yeah. He's like, you're absolutely right. It does make a difference in how you feel. And I was like, just the difference in one word can change how you feel. So you did so well in creating a book that, again, your book it's 200 pages, but it's not just repeating the same thing over and over. It's always something different. And you were able to create 200 pages of substance on the particular area of self-talk, when I haven't read any other book like that. So I commend you for it. And I thank you for keeping me engaged. But I got to know, why self-talk specifically? Did you have someone in your life who helped you, who said to you, Randye, what if you get to do this versus you have to do this, or this hard experience, what if you framed it in this way? Like, did you have a mentor like that yourself, or did you discover this on your own?
That's a really good question, and no one has asked me that before. So let me think about that for a second. I will, while I'm thinking, tell you that I don't think I came up with anything brand new for this book. I'm very clear at the beginning that The Magic of Thinking Big from the 1950s, How to Win Friends and Influence People, all of those are amazing books. And people have been striving. I don't like the word struggling. I like striving for happier moments forever, and thinking about it, go to the Bible, go to Aristotle, go to any kind of quotes that come, and many of them are centuries old. So this have to get to is something I picked up along the way. I didn't make it up, but I use it. And what makes us each unique are the stories that we use that only happen to us, that illustrate how the words work. And that's what I tried to do in the book, is take a story from my life and go, well, because the words are like little time bombs in our brains. And maybe that's not a great phrase, but that's what I use in the book. And because there's something called bridging associations in our mind. And I learned this partly in my year after I left morning radio. I spent a year traveling around the country teaching stress reduction. And some of the research got me thinking about what I did. So I think rather than one mentor, it is what I learned in teaching this material that really changed what I did. And I found that it's easy to try to change your words, that's a cheap experiment. Just like, oh, I notice I'm saying to myself, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'll give you an example that's not in the book. So I do speak in the book about what I call relationship high school, which sadly was not in high school, but between husbands, where I learned finally what I hadn't learned in my 20s because I was busy trying to be a star for psychological reasons that we won't go into here. I thought fame would make my life great. And what I was really seeking was a relationship that was healthy. And my first husband, I would say, was not the healthiest choice, but it is what it is. And, 2 children, and I don't regret anything. But I forgave him for abandoning the family, but I didn't forget. And in between, I said, okay, I've got to learn to have a healthier relationship. And so 16 years between husbands and raising 2 kids took a lot of my energy, as it should. But there were periods where I wasn't with anybody, which is fine. But what I began to say to myself when a relationship would break up was, I always meet new men instead of it always crashes and burns. It's just a change of phrase, because when we say a word, it leads us somewhere else. So when your dad says, I get to go visit my mother, it leads you to other phrases like, I'm so lucky I can drive. I'm so lucky she's still alive. I'm so lucky I have the time. When I have 3 adorable, chaotic, noisy, big personality grandchildren, age 6, all from the same daughter who's just, had 3 in diapers at one point. And they live 3 weeks away. And I've, especially with COVID, am privileged to help a lot. Has my income gone down because I'm busy grandparenting? Yeah. But I could say, oh, I have to go help with the grandchildren. And if I ever say that in my head, I immediately switch to, I get to. You know why? Because the other grandmother lives in England and would give anything to be able to have the kids come over and have crayons all over the dining room table. So I get to help with my grandchildren. Leads me to, I'm so fortunate that my daughter and I have a great relationship, that my son-in-law loves me too, that the kids are nearby. So it's not so much the word change, but what the word change leads to.
Yes.
And so I would say, in answer to your question, I've had many mentors, living and dead, who in reading books, reminded me of things to get myself unstuck and make things better. I didn't make up any of these phrases. It is what it is. Everyone says that, we're all connected. Well, that's a phrase, but maybe that's mine. But I used in this way, all will be well. I think the one that is unique to me is the humor phrase, because, is it that interesting?
Yes.
Leads you to a very different place than poor me. And yeah.
It's funny because people used to make fun of me because whenever they would tell me something, like whether it's something good about their life, something bad about their life, or something that I just didn't know in general, a piece of information that was new, I still do this. I look at them and it's just something that comes to my mind. I always say, interesting. And it's my word. And I say interesting. I nod my head just like this because I love to learn. I'm very curious and it leads to more questions. But that phrase, and I'm going to go through each of them. You kind of just did, but I'm going to go through each of them in a second here. That phrase is so powerful because it causes you to ask questions, right? And dig deeper into something. And
exactly.
You said, and you said a second ago, it's easy to change your words. And I agree with that. Only once you bring it and them to awareness. And I think your book and the acronym of BREATHE, you did a really good job at helping me and everyone else who reads this, I hope, become aware that words can change your life. Because once you're aware that your words have this impact, then you can consciously begin to use these phrases and change your language. Mm-hmm. But I remember there was a point in my life where I was not consciously aware of what I was thinking, what I was saying to myself. And I know there's a lot of people who are going to read this book, and this is going to be their first personal development book that they read. Like for me, my first personal development book was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, which you mentioned in the book.
Yeah.
But before that, I never realized, wow, people want to feel appreciated. I should truly listen to people and not just wait to respond. Like, oh, never argue is the only way to win an argument. Like those little things I remember to this day, just like I remember your key phrases. One that I say constantly now is be here now, be here now. I was just on a walk with my wife. I guess I have a habit of doing this. I really got to stop doing it. But I was on a walk and I stopped looking at my phone frequently during the walks. And I say to myself, be here now, be here now. And I'll look around at the trees, I'll listen to the birds. But the other day I was with my wife and again, she didn't read the book, right? And she was on her phone and I wanted her to have the same experience. And again, maybe I should stop doing this as much as I do. But I looked at her, I was like, hey, Bree. And she looked at me. We have fun with this kind of thing. I'm not just like, instructing her, but I was
sure like, she knows you well.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Here it comes.
I said, what if you were here right now without your phone? And she just like rolls her eyes and smiles and then keeps looking at it. But then she puts it away because, I mean, we know these things, but sometimes we need a reminder of these things.
Exactly. And that, and that's the thing is that we do need a reminder. And I'm clear. I try to be really real in this book. And everybody talks about mindfulness. Again, I didn't make it up, but I want to make the expectations realistic. You don't want to be present 100% every second of every day. It's a matter of choosing as consciously as you can what you want your mind to do. We can't, we're not 100% in control of it, but we can be more in control of it than we think. So if you're getting a root canal, you really don't want to be here now. During a root canal, I mean, sometimes I'll say, oh, lucky me, I get to have a root canal. And you know what? That dentist, that root canal expert fixed a tooth that would have had to be pulled. Mm-hmm. So there is gratitude in the root canal, but that doesn't mean I enjoy the procedure. So during a root canal, I'm going to choose to fantasize, or I'm going to choose a good memory, or I might choose to listen to an audiobook. We do want to escape. We do want to sometimes not be in the midst of pain. So there are times to distract yourself, but there are many times to just say, be here now. And it's such a simple phrase. And I must say it 20 times a day. I did it this week. Monday night, I did a scene from a play. I'm an actor, and I did a play over the summer, which I loved. And every actor on stage occasionally goes, I wonder what the audience is thinking. And no, that totally ruins your focus. And I just go, be here now. And be here now at that moment is me and the other actor on stage. And so it's just a gentle bringing yourself back. It's not a command. It's not a you terrible person, you're mindless. It's just a gentle reminder. And where it leads you is, wow, I turn my faucet on and water comes out. That's amazing. Just it's the words and where it leads you. And so what I have, as you know, I have 3 grandchildren, and kids, they're like, watch me, watch me, watch me. And you know what? They know when you're watching, but you're not thinking about them. You're not really watching. I said, I have to go. I'm watching with 2 eyes, and I have to really watch her swim across the pool for the 47th time, like it's the first time. But what a gift to be here. And so be here now is the first one. It's my way of it's like a snap back to mindfulness when I need it.
Yes.
Be here now.
So let me read through these because I think they're amazing. And everyone, the way the book is structured is Randye starts it with a great introduction, and each section of the book is a core phrase, and there's 7 core phrases. The acronym that they all stem from is breathe. Okay. And there's,
you didn't hear that word without taking a deep breath.
It's a great word. It's a great word. And each letter starts with one word. So as an example, B is being. And then the core phrase that stems from being is be here now. So there's being, reality, which is it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Engagement, we're all connected. Appreciation, this is good. Trust, all will be well. Humor, isn't that interesting? And esteem, whatever happens, I'll handle it somehow. Excellent phrases. I'm curious to know, I know you've mentioned humor a few times and how that's very unique and present in your life. Are any more important than the others?
It depends on the situation. So there are times when I need humor and there are times when I need to just face the reality of it is what it is. I'll take an example, 2 examples. 2 of the most powerful stories is one that I have I have 2 children, son and a daughter, and 2 ex-stepchildren in England whom I love, but don't get to see often enough. But family is what you embrace, as I say in the book. But one story is, it is what it is. The story connected with that is the fact that my firstborn, my son, my first baby, developed schizophrenia starting in his mid-teens, and its aftermath and its continuous effect on the family and changing the family. And it is what it is helps me to go, okay, I can't change it. And it's the serenity prayer, changing what you can, realizing what you can't change. But it is what it is leads me to, okay, what can I do? Now what? It's acceptance in a way. Reality is in a way acceptance, but it is not approval. I will never approve of the fact that my son got a serious mental illness. I will never it's hard to be grateful for that.
Yeah.
But I do accept that it is true. And that is, so when I get out of my own way and get out of why me, why him, why did this happen? Poor me, it is what it is, gets me out of any kind of victim mode and just go, look, this is it. Look, as I told you before, my house is sinking. This room we're in is going to have to be, we just found out in having our house re-sided, which it needed to do for 12 years, that a corner of this house is sinking, which is why I can't open my windows. And look, now, yes, it was a shock. And I'm clear in the book that you need processing time when, the fact that you have to take out a home equity line of credit to fix your house, it wasn't a fun discovery, but my husband and I could go pretty quickly to, all right, it is what it is. Now what? What do we do? What are our options? And I didn't get stuck in poor me. Now I can do that because we're both working. we do have an income, we do have good credit. I know that it's not so easy to say all the time, oh, it is what it is. And it doesn't happen right away. If your great grandmother dies, I'm trying to use an example that won't put any negative vibes out into the universe. But if your great grandmother dies and you loved her, you can't go, oh, well, grandma died. It is what it is. Like, you don't jump to that.
Yeah.
But you can get to a point where you can choose that so that your next step can be, okay, what can I do? And we all need processing time. You know, if we all need processing time. And then once we've processed, then we get to the point where we can choose what we're telling ourselves. Brene Brown calls this the story I'm telling myself is. And I love the way she phrases it. So, you know, it is what it is helps me to go, all right, I wish it was different. It's not different. My son has schizophrenia. What can we still do? Can I help him? Can't do that. Can it? So it helps me to just relax and kind of move to trust that all will be well, just maybe not the way I planned it.
Yes. And I like how you talk about something that helps you is it makes it easier for you when you think about the book, you know, Ben Behind His Voices that you wrote, that helps other people who are in,
because it's right here.
Yeah, it's right there. Yep. There's the book. And that's helping people who are in a similar situation. You have your podcast. What's the title of the podcast?
Schizophrenia, Three Moms in the Trenches. So I wrote Ben Behind His Voices 10 years ago. And in 2020, 2021, I met two other authors virtually because COVID, who had written similar memoirs about their son's schizophrenia. And I reached out to them and we met and I created a bond, and we decided to make a podcast to help other people. And it's not a moneymaker. We don't have a sponsor. We just have guests on and people say it's helping them. So that makes me feel good that, you know, I would say, you know, in life, send two lemons, make lemonade, but you got to supply the sugar yourself. You know, you have to find the sugar. It doesn't just turn into lemonade. So that's my twist on that. And so, you know, would I trade it all for my son to be cured? Absolutely. But in the meantime, you know, we're creating this thing that people say are helping them. So that feels good. That's, you know, that's why I want to be happier, so that I had the energy to do the things that can make the world a tiny bit of a better place for somebody. That's what we're here to do, what you're doing with your business and your life. So
I appreciate that. Yeah. And it's great to see how it is what it is eventually led to something that is making a positive difference in the lives of other people. And from what it sounds like from what you're saying is that there isn't one that's most important, but what's most important depends on the circumstances that currently exist in someone's life. So everyone, when you read this, one part of it's going to resonate with you more than the others, and go all in on that. And Randye, you're really good, like we said earlier, at it's not a book that you read. Like, as an example, I'll read a Tony Robbins book, and I personally like this because I like Tony Robbins, but he doesn't say, you know, you don't have to do this, but if it helps, try it on and give it a shot. You know, Tony Robbins is like, do this, do that. This is what you need to do. Rewrite your story. But you're very gentle in the way that you bring these philosophies and ideas to light, and you make it. You say if it works for you, then use it. So you're not forcing anything down someone's throat when you read this.
No, and I've got to tell you that when the book came out, and we had a really fantastic launch day, and I would go into the self-development groups, and I do find, being totally honest, that what I've learned as an author of a gentle book, that some people prefer to be told what to do. Some people prefer the bang you over the head, what's wrong with you. It makes me think of something that was popular when I was younger called Est, where, you know, people went to these weekends to be told they were unconscious a-holes. And you know, you here's the rule, you can't go to the bathroom. Like, it was a whole thing. But people bought into it because they wanted to be told what to do. And I know many people who were helped by Tony Robbins, and many of them were only helped temporarily because they came home high on adrenaline. And 3 days later, their life didn't change. Not everybody, you know, obviously he wouldn't be so successful if he didn't do what
Yes.
he does. But my book is more about serotonin. It's more about feeling better so that you have the energy to do the work, to do what you need to do. And it is not as sexy as the high of, hey, I walked over the hot coals. So books that make a promise of you can be a millionaire, make a vision board, you can reach your goals, you can quit that boring job. I'm not about that. I'm about, the whole of your life and having days that are better so that you're not stuck in feeling like a victim, in feeling like life sucks, in feeling like you can't do anything. You find more inner energy so that whatever you want to do with it, you can do. But people tend to be more drawn at first to the promise of a book that's like change your life in 2 days, and so I get the appeal of those books. Mine is more forgiving
Mm,
and easier to implement and encourages you to find the lessons yourself,
yes.
because those are the lessons that stick. So I suggest, I like try this, see if it works for you,
Hmm.
kind of the way I try to live my life, although, I try not to give unsolicited advice. So
Yeah.
I try not. It's hard, but yeah.
You did a great job with that approach. And for those who do want to go deeper on a specific core phrase, you're really good at giving resources for people who do want to go deeper. Like you've got links at the end, you've got different exercises people can do.
Yeah.
You've got even exercises throughout the chapters that people can fill in the blanks and most of the chapters actually, which is really cool. So it's different for everyone. Everyone's experience will be different going through this.
Right.
I believe it was your chapter on humor that, and correct me if I'm wrong, where you told the story of you went to this event, right? This genealogy event, if that's the word, and
Yes.
you discovered, and I'll let you tell the story because I
Okay.
this is one that I laughed out loud at, especially when the humor came into play, right? Where you discovered that your siblings were actually half siblings. And this
Yes.
was later in your life, right?
Later in my life, it was 3 years ago. Yeah. So, and I'm a grandmother. So, yeah. So I will tell the story as briefly as I can. And I will tell you that, people see things differently depending on who they are. And so I, again, it's not what happens to you, it's what you tell yourself about it eventually. So this story is in my book on humor because to me humor saved the day. So I have two brothers, one older, one younger, and we knew that our parents, both long deceased, had had not been able to conceive for 4 years. So we knew that they were married 4 years before my older brother came along, and that 2 years later I came along. That's all we really knew. But I will show you the book my brother just published about it. And as you can see, we do not look alike. He is blonde, blue-eyed, now has a red beard, and I'm brown, brown, brown. So um, my mother used to call us her black and white cocktail. And we just thought it was hilarious that we looked so different. But we do have a paternal grandfather and a maternal grandmother, or the other way around, that are blonde and blue-eyed. So we thought recessive genes, look how it worked out. We're different. He's introverted, I'm extroverted, but you have siblings, right?
Yeah.
You're not all the same. That's the way it works out, and birth order and all kinds of things in family. And so we went to this DNA party basically at our temple, just like, let's test your DNA and see who's like fifth cousins. And anyway, we got our results and they were oddly different. And there's a much longer version of this story in my brother's book, but a short version of it is we found that we were confused. So we went after the meeting to the guy in charge of telling us about the DNA, and he looked it up on the computer and he's like, you don't want to know what's here? I said, yes, we do. And he said, well, a full sibling is generally 35 to over 50% DNA match. You guys are like 17% or something like that. There is no way that you are full siblings. And so there was shock, obviously. And my first thought with Rick being so fair is that because he was first, that maybe he had a different father than I did. Obviously, we know my mother was pregnant 3 times. But I remember a joke this is what I remember from it. He doesn't remember it this way, but I remember, he goes, I knew it. And I, and there was some point where I said, well, maybe Jerry Springer is your father, because he looks so much like Jerry Springer. And to me, just being able to find my humor was something that saved the day. And a reaction to shock is laughter. So I remember laughing about it. I mean, I was in shock, but it was also kind of hilarious. But my brother doesn't remember that. So it's funny how you remember things differently. Everybody's point of view is different toward any story. You have 3 people tell the same story. It's going to be different depending on their point of view. I learned that again in my 1 semester as a communications professor. So, which was a lot of work. Professors, God bless you. Teachers, God bless you. But as it turns out, nobody knew the story. And we didn't know if my mother had had an affair or what. One family friend knew that my parents had gone for fertility treatments in the 50s. I'm born in 52, my brother born 1950, and that we, turns out, are both sperm donor babies.
Yes.
So not only is my older brother my half brother, but my younger brother, who was a surprise, is also my half brother. And my dad is not my dad biologically. Yes. So it changes everything at first. You're like, well, who am I? I'm not a K. I'm not a K. Wait a minute. I always sort of had my dad's jawline. And then you're like, wait a minute, maybe my medical history is different. And it really changes everything and brings up a lot of questions. For me, after the shock was absorbed, I was like, I wish I was still on morning radio. What a good story this would make. And I have come full circle after finding who my biological father was. And I don't even want to call him my bio dad, because he didn't know. I mean, he just donated sperm. That's all he did, and didn't want to talk to me. And for me, that wasn't rejection. It was disappointment, because I was curious. But, he's not my dad. My dad is the guy with all his flaws. And my brother's very clear in the book about how imperfect my parents were, as are they all. We just see it differently. So it really, for me, I find it hilarious, but also life-changing. And it really cemented what I believe about family, what I think is important. And the way I tell the story is very different from the way my brother tells his story. He's a different person. It affected him differently. And he and his wife went through a lot of sleuthing to find who his biological dad was, and over a dozen have siblings. So, and I have found 3, one of whom is a donor baby too. And we're in touch and we're creating a relationship. But what is family? It's the memory. It's the people you've made memories with. It's the people you embrace. I have ex-stepchildren in England, and what I have of them are any memories we've been able to make together, very sporadically. But those memories stay with you forever. Love, I believe, stays with you forever. When you love someone, unless it's an unhealthy relationship and you thought it was love and it wasn't really love, which is a whole other book, but love stays forever. I visited a friend in the hospital yesterday. I haven't seen in a decade. We've all had that, but it feels like I just saw him yesterday. And because I love him, and I will always love him. And love, as Lin-Manuel Miranda says, love is love is love. And that is what we're here to do. So, and when you're happier, you can give more love and less judgment. If we could approach each other with curiosity, connection, and openness first, without having to prove we're right, which I call the Booby prize of life, and I think the world would be a better place. Is that a little preachy? It's a little preachy, sorry. But,
I think it's a great philosophy.
Like you say, when you talk to someone, you're fascinated by other people, as am I. I just most other people.
Yes.
But if you just say, tell me more about that, boom, you'd be surprised what happens. So.
Absolutely. We're all connected, right? And I think it's fascinating how your brother received the same news and he decided to dig deep and find these other connections, right? That have led to new relationships that you're forming with other half siblings. For those who aren't watching, what is the name of the book that your brother authored?
It's called Revelation, and this is us, a memoir of deep family secrets, discovery, and identity. It just came out this week.
Wow.
And it is, and the funny thing is, like, my brother and I again, I have a younger brother too, and this has affected him in a different way. But it's not like Rick and I are the writers in the family. Neither one of us ever thought, well, I'm going to grow up and be an author. Like, it never, he's very private. He's very introverted. Like, and I don't mean introverted as anything other than introverts get their energy being alone, and extroverts get their energy from other people, but we all have varying degrees. I'm an extrovert, but I still like my alone time. My brother loves other people, but he also likes his alone time more than I do. I'd say, Amy Schumer is an introvert, she says, and it's just like, I need to regroup. So, and my brother's a wonderful father, and he's not like a loner. He's just gets his energy. He needs to reboot his energy, and it's very much more private than I am. I'm like, privacy off. He's like, privacy on. So for him to write this book is almost like the way my two books were written, which is like, I have this idea and it won't leave me. It won't leave me alone. I've got to write a book about it. And coincidentally, life created some free time. The first time, because I left morning radio with a non-compete severance package. So I had 6 months to get paid and do something else. And the second time, my voiceover and audio narration business slowed to a crawl for December, as often happens. And I said, well, if I'm going to write the book, now's the time to write it. I've got the time. And so both times it was an idea that wouldn't leave me, and it had to be done through me. Every writer tells you that that's what happens. And I think it happened with my brother as well. He just started and didn't stop. So, and I don't write my books for catharsis. I write my books to share with other people a story that might help them. I'd rather share a story than tell you what to do. Although Happier Made Simple gives you suggestions as to what helped me. Hey, maybe it'll work for you. But I always find that the most important lessons are sometimes inspired by others, but seldom forced on us by others.
That's right.
For instance, being involved in the lives of young people again brings this home to me. The 3 kids were in the pool the other day with me, and they've just learned to love it. And the 2 younger ones, who were 5 and almost 4, are still wearing swimmies, essentially. And in the term of those old tubes that we used to go in, that's where they get their comfort. And I want to make sure I'm in the pool with them all the time, but I gathered them all and said, no, let's go over the pool rules. Well, they were not listening. I said, first of all, if you were to slip into the middle, you got to keep your mouth closed. And they're like, blah, 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 and I just went, let's have a quiz. If you fell into the pool, would you keep your mouth open or closed? What do you think? And they went, closed. And they said, what do you think the next thing is you would do? How would you get to the surface? When they came up with the answers, they were very attentive. But when I was trying to tell them the answers, they just tuned me out. So I think we can guide each other to find our own answers, but that it's the lessons that life teaches us without being hit over the head with it, by other people's boundaries, by other people's examples, by other people's books, shows. People will watch this and they'll take something from what you said. They might take something from what I said, or maybe not. Maybe they're not. So I remember when raising 2 teenagers is hilarious too. And my daughter would never listen to my advice. Like, she was like, oh, Mom. But then I would hear her tell her friends the same advice that I gave her. And then she goes, well, you know what my mom says, blah, blah, blah. Oh, like it was the best advice she ever got. But she couldn't give me the gift of going, good advice, Mom.
That's amazing.
We've all been teenagers.
Isn't it crazy how that works?
Mom.
I love that. Yeah, I think we've all been there, and we all do that, right? And we learn through living life how to best give that advice, and sometimes it's by helping the other person create those answers for themselves, like what you just said. And that's what makes an amazing coach, right?
Yes, and you are a coach, and you know that it's helping your clients find their own way. Oh, it looks like they're mowing my lawn, so you can hear the buzz. But
that's okay.
So that's why at the end of my book, I do have 3 kind of bonus chapters. One is about comparison and the thief of joy sometimes, but it can be good also.
Yes.
One is about things we tell other people, and it's just, there are many good books written about that, but I give like 20 examples or something. And then Sometimes instead of telling ourselves things, it becomes, let me just do something different and see if it works.
Yeah.
Like starting your day with a 10-minute analog period. Like if you sit down with your coffee, sometimes I will just put this down and for 10 minutes I can't open my screens. Just
Mm.
to see what happens. Just to see what happens. And I find myself reading the paper or sitting quietly or cleaning the counter, whatever it is. 10 analog minutes can make a big difference in your day. Do I do it every day? Nope. But sometimes I like to see how it works. So just
Yes.
getting outside is a game changer. But I'm not going to tell you to do it. I'm going to say, hey, try it. See if it works for you.
Exactly.
I'm
You
so
did a
sorry for the noise. I don't know if you can hear it.
your microphone's doing a great job at
Oh,
not
good.
making it so
Okay.
pronounced. So it's all good. It is what it is, right?
It
And
is what it is. Exactly. And I did want to check in with you and see if it was okay for you too.
100%. And you did a really great job at like what you just had, giving us different tools that we can add to our own toolbox. And some people will use one of these tools more often. Some of us will use more of them, right? Like
Right.
I already mentioned, Be Here Now is a big one for me, and that just happened to be one of the first chapters in the book. Now, is there anything that after writing this book, is there anything that you didn't include that you still think, well, maybe I should have included that? Or is there anything after the book was published that you learned, or a new insight or a story that you wish could have been added to the book?
Ooh, really, really good question. Of course it is, Brandon, because we do. I would say that what I learned about the the marketing image of this book is that there are many people who are more drawn to the promise of success than are drawn to the possibility of happier moments. That the you can reach your goals and be a billionaire will sell more books than, hey, be a little bit happier. And so I had I known that, I would have addressed earlier in the book that, and I do address that we're not here to be happy 100% of the time, but I would have added that having happier moments can give us the energy to do what we're here to do. And what we're here to do is not to be happy. What we're here to do is to have the energy to give more of ourselves, to learn more, to love more, to teach more, to meet our challenges and find ways around them in a way that can help other people. Look, going back to family, I didn't come from a perfect family. My father could be a rageaholic at times, but I also have really good memories. And everybody's family is flawed. Except on a Hallmark commercial. So, and there's a part of me, like, I don't have strict beliefs, even religious beliefs. I just have ideas that I'm willing to think about. That's how, because I don't think any of us has any answers. And I came across this idea of what if, and I love what if instead of you should. What if our souls are like floating around in heaven or wherever, in the universe, in the cosmos, going, I need to learn in this lifetime how to not be a people pleaser.
Mm.
I think I'd like to be born into that family with a father that's difficult to please and a mother who always tries to please him to keep the peace. And then that will set the stage for Act 1. And in Act 2, I can make decisions where I can grow.
Yes.
So what if we chose our family in order to set up the problem we need to solve?
Wow.
That is an interesting possibility. Isn't that interesting? It's an interesting possibility. I'm not saying that's how it works. I don't know how it works. I'm not God. I don't know. I'm just a person trying to work my way through life. But if I look at it that way, and I'm not saying my childhood was without pain, and I'm not saying my childhood was without drama, but I've heard a lot worse. And it gets me to a place where I go, it is what it is. I had the father I had, and guess what? It wasn't even my biological dad. What am I going to do with that information? How am I going to grow myself up given this information? And a big change for me was when I saw my parents as human beings who maybe could have done better, but they did the best they could. and
Yes.
died before I could ask them about some of these things I'm finding out. But you know what? I can't change my childhood. I can only change the way I view it. And that is what I choose to do. Even if it's rose-colored glasses, I don't care. They give me the energy to live a life with more love in it. What more could you ask? So
That's
yeah,
right.
I am an optimist because it gives me energy to do the work.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote a book. Is it going to sell 100,000 copies? I hope so.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't, that's okay too.
Mm-hmm.
I did it. It's out there. I did the work and I believe in it. So I choose to believe. I believe. I always occasionally have to burst into song because I'm a musical comedy.
Oh, I do the same thing. Believe me.
That's from Book of Mormon. Oh, so don't consider the source. It just came to my head.
Well, your book has already helped at least one person, and it's only going to help so many more people. And for everyone, again, Randye's book is Happier Made Simple. Choose your words, change your life. Randye, I know that you also have programs that go along with this book that you deliver for parties that want you to come in and deliver a program. So where's the best place for people to grab a copy of your book and or communicate with you on bringing you in to deliver this book in a program format?
Okay, so I am in the process of consolidating all of this, but I need to save money to do that. So right now, the best place to get the book is probably Amazon or wherever you get your books online. I know there are a couple of bookstores that have ordered it because I get the wholesale reports, but mostly this paperback or audiobook or Kindle, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Nook, wherever you get order your books online is probably the best place. I also have a related website, happiermadesimple.com, which is just the book's website. You can get in touch with me through there or through my general website, which is randyekaye.com, RANDYEKAYE.com. And it shows you my multi-potentialite life. I'm a voiceover talent. I'm an actor. I'm a speaker and an author. So there's 4 little landing pages on there. And as a speaker, I present just Happier Made Simple as a lunch and learn for wellness committees in corporations that are invested in the personal growth of their employees. I also do have related programs, Happier Employees Made Simple, which is about more than just word choice. And Happier Made Simple, I just got the trademark, so I can use that, which is great. Cool. Happier Customers Made Simple. But in terms of personal growth, Happier Made Simple is something I do. I also speak about serious mental illness in the family and what that is like. That was the beginning of my speaker career, and I got flown to many international places to share our story with people. And I also, I coach presentation skills but a lot of what I talk about now is that personal growth. It's mindset. It's mindset, and the key to mindset is just words because they're stored in our head. If I say the word chair to you, it's going to lead somewhere for you. It's going to lead somewhere else for me. So it's the bridging associations. I never say stupid to anyone. I say silly. Very different. Like words are just different. And for myself, I don't go, well, that was stupid. I go, oh, Randye, that was silly. Silly you. So
I love that. Well, Randye, thank you so much. Everyone listening, links are in the description for happiermadesimple.com, for randyekaye.com. I'll link a link that actually brings you right to the Amazon page to grab a copy of this book, Happier Made Simple. And this conversation was absolutely incredible, as I knew it would be. So, Randye, thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast. And I know that I'm sure I'll have you back in the future as well, because I'm sure we've got so much more we can talk about.
I would always love to come back. Thank you, Brandon. A pleasure, as always.
Thank you. No matter what stage you are in your own personal development journey or where you are on your own pursuit of happiness, then Happier Made Simple is a great next step for you, whether it's your first step or whether you've entrenched yourself in this world of creating a better life for yourself personally or professionally. These 7 key and core phrases will only help you to enhance your experience of life. Again, Randye's book name is Happier Made Simple. We went into each of the core phrases today. I think the biggest one for me is, again, just being here now, always looking into, I'm always looking into the future. I'm always, what am I going to do next? What am I going to work on next? What didn't work from the past? What did work from the past? But we've got the past, we've got the future, but we also have this moment right here. And this moment right here is really the only true moment that we have, right? And that's just one core phrase. So if you're like, wow, I've really got to check this out, links are in the description so that you can do so. If you took away anything from this conversation, please share the show with just one other person. You're the best part of the Be Better team, and I'm grateful for you for sharing the show over the past few years that we've been hosting the show. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. And until we speak again next time, continue to be better.